Hi everyone, welcome back to my lab and today's video, which is going to be my review and demo of the brand new Pat McGrath Labs Mothership Sublime Golden Opulence palette. I received my palette yesterday. I created a couple of looks and I am familiar with the Pat McGrath formula, so I'm ready to share my thoughts with you. Before we get into the video, if you're new here, I'm Yori. Thank you so much for clicking on my video. I hope you're going to enjoy it, find it helpful, and maybe consider subscribing and joining my makeup family by hitting that subscribe button and ringing the bell so you're notified every single time I upload a new video. Now, without any further delay, let's go ahead and get into the palette. I ended up purchasing my palette from the Selfridges Canadian website. One of my subscribers and YouTube friends, Britt, you are the best. Thank you so much. She shared on her Instagram that this palette was available on the Selfridges Canada website, and then she walked me through step by step on how to go ahead and order it. So I did place my order just a few days ago, even though the palette just launched yesterday. Because Selfridges is a UK-based store, shipping is really expensive, and not only did they have regular shipping, but it was like express shipping, so I did pay quite a bit to have my palette shipped internationally. In hindsight, I should have just joined the Selfridges Plus program because I have a feeling that with the way Pat McGrath launches have been going lately, I'm gonna subscribe to that service so that way I can order from their website when things become available. In any case, the palette did launch on the Pat McGrath website yesterday for $65, and even though it's not currently available, it is going to be available at Sephora. I see the coming soon promotion for this palette at $65. I personally paid close to $92 again because of the cost of the shipping, but I love the palette so much, and again, the way that her launches have been going, I didn't want to risk missing out on the palette. So here's what the palette looks like. Because of the colors, it looks like it's a Lunar New Year release, and it's really pretty. It's different than other packaging she has done because this one is kind of glittery, and also her logo is much larger on this palette. I recently reviewed the Star Wars, and I mentioned how I liked when it was just a single flap, and she's back to her trifold flap format here. One thing that I noticed in my palette is that when I open it up, this one doesn't really pull back that far, and you'll see it when I insert swatches that it keeps kind of closing up on me. I really would prefer if she went ahead and just had the single flap. It's just cleaner, easier to use, a little bit lighter. Still, it's very pretty packaging. I was trying to pull it back all the way up, but I noticed that this piece kind of goes up a little bit further and it keeps it from opening up all the way. It's just something to note. It makes the mirror a little bit harder to use, and it makes the palette impossible to lay down flat, which can be really annoying while you're doing your makeup. It's just something to keep in mind. I've used the palette 3 times and I have found myself having that complaint over and over again. So here's a close-up of what the palette looks like. On the back side, you do have the ingredients for each of the different shades and the recommendation that this palette have a 12-month usage lifetime. As for other Mothership palettes, you're getting 12 grams of product, so that's roughly 2 grams per shade. And in this specific palette, based on the names alone and comparing to my existing Pat McGrath collection, which I own absolutely every eyeshadow she's ever made, these are going to be brand new shades. So you have the plastic insert as usual, and here's what your shades look like. As I mentioned, these are all going to be brand new shades to her line, but if you look at them, they are all very neutral, maybe have a little bit of a rosiness to them. If you already have a very large Pat McGrath collection, you're either going to be like me and you're going to want to own it because it is Pat McGrath, or you're going to be of the mind that these are fairly dupable shades. Even in her collection with her existing line, she has a lot of golds in her collection, a lot of neutrals. She typically has a highlighting like champagne shade like this in a lot of her palettes, so there are going to be similarities, but again, there are no 100% duplicated shades in this palette. They're all new, which is something I really appreciate since I do have her other palettes, and I would prefer not to have any duplicates. It's a beautiful color story, very cohesive, very easy to use. I absolutely love this middle shade right here because it is a peachy, neutral, light tone, and I find that's something that's been missing in her collection. Of all the shadows that are here, I personally think that's the most unique when compared to her existing line, because again, when she has lighter neutrals, they have a tendency to be more cool tone, and this one definitely has a warmth to it that is flattering to my personal skin tone, so I really like it. I do want to show you how I created today's eye look so that you can also get an idea of how the shades perform, but this is going to be be your Pat McGrath quality. Beautiful palette, beautiful quality, very usable color story. It's going to be very wearable for the everyday, and if you want a little extra pop, you can definitely use that gold for a more special occasion. Before I get into the demo, I just wanted to mention the palette is listed as limited edition, but it is still currently available on the Pat McGrath website, and like I said, it's going to be available on the Sephora website as well. Let's go ahead and get into how I created the eye look, and then we'll chat a little more. If you can believe it, I'm still sick, so just continue to bear with me with regard to my voice. I'm going to create this eye look using the little neutral quad over here on the left side of the palette. I'm starting with the Sonia G Crease Pro and the shade Tranquility, and I'm going to apply that to the outer part of my crease as well as the inside part of my crease. With this palette, I'm going to go ahead and create a halo eye because I do have this lighter shade to put on the inside part of my eye, which doesn't draw my eyes so close together as a darker shade would. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this all the way into the inner corner of my eye. I'm going to go ahead and bring it on the inner corner. I got my palette yesterday and I created a couple of looks just to familiarize myself with the shades and the performance of the palette so that I could film with it for you today. And I can already tell you that this is my favorite shade in the palette. I've been really loving my matte shadows lately, and this one is a really nice addition to the Pat McGrath line because it is a lighter shade that is also a little bit more on the warm side. If you are familiar with Pat McGrath's eyeshadows, she has a lot of really deep, beautiful shades, but they are really deep shades. And every time there's a lighter matte, I get really happy. But most of them have been more on the neutral side or even on the cool tone side. So this one just has just that tiny little bit of peachiness, which gives it a lot of warmth, and I really, really like that. Next, I'm going to take the Sonia G Mini Booster and the shade Prosperity, and I'm going to apply that to the outer third of my lid to start to create that halo eye. I have my ISO set to auto because I've noticed that whenever I'm doing these close-ups, my lighting changes quite a bit, and it changes when the computer, or the camera rather, it switches focus from like my face in general to something a little bit closer. Like if I get a little too close to the camera and then it gets a little bit darker, I've noticed. I've also tried to set the ISO at a specific number, like typically 100. You're probably really bored if you don't like taking pictures and stuff like that. But anyway, I'm just trying to explain the changing in lighting because I notice it when I'm editing my videos, and it's really frustrating. I think also having the white background, it looks a little bit beigeish right now, but it is white. It also messes with it a little bit, so I don't know. In any case, I'm applying this to the outer corner, as you can see, and I am going to apply just a tiny bit to the inner corner of my eye, but not right on the inner corner. More like, you see I'm leaving like that right inside part clear because I'm going to apply a little bit of a highlight shade there. See, I just noticed it went dark again. In any case, I just want to make sure that I do have a halo effect, but I want to make sure not to put this on the inner corner of my eye because that's what actually closes my eye looks at times. Once I've deposited most of the color, I'm using, I don't know if I said, I'm using the Sonia G Mini Booster, and I'm just kind of blending out the edges just a little bit. And I'm not worried too much about the center because of course that's where I'm going to place my metallic. I'm going to take the shade Moonphase, and I'm just taking this on my fingertip and I'm going to apply it there in the center of the lid. And I'm making sure to overlap it a little bit inward and outward, and I'll blend that out with a brush in just a little bit. So I'm going to take the Mini Booster with just the tiniest amount of the Prosperity shade to make sure that the darker shade is still visible in the outer corner. And without adding any additional product, I'm going to do the same thing on the inner part. I'm just blending the edges a little bit. I'm also going to apply a tiny bit of this shade to the inner and outer corner of my lower lash line. Again, on the lower lash line, I'm being really careful not to get into that tear duct area because that's the mistake I was making with the Natasha Denona mini palette and getting just too close to the inner corner where it was closing my eyes off. So I like this technique a lot better because it's a lot more flattering to my eye shape. I'm going to use the Sonia G Flat Definer in the Moon Face shade, and I'm just going to apply that right in between the two colors just to connect them and to bring that little spotlight to the lower lash line as well. One thing I noticed yesterday is how easy it is to create eye looks with this. It's so neutral, and I told myself I was not going to use the Lotus Luxe shade because it's got like a definite rosy tone, and one of you are always telling me that I'm creating a lot of pink looks. I'm not doing it on purpose. It's funny, I don't even like love pink eyeshadow. I think it's pretty, but I don't love it. It's not my favorite. My favorite is green. But I guess a lot of palettes have a pop of pink or something, and since I'm usually drawn to the pops of colors, I guess I end up making a pink look. And even this one, looking at it right now, it's a little pink, but you know, that's okay. Now I'm going to use a Sonia G Smudger 1 and the shade Eternal Opulence, and that's what I'm going to use to open up my inner corner here. And even with the spotlight eye, it makes such a huge difference. I'm also going to use this shade as a brow bone highlight. It works really well that way. Now I know right now a lot of my eye looks still like a stark white because of the ABH primer, but I'm going to go in with the Tranquility shade in just a minute and blend that all out. I did apply just a little bit of that Eternal Opulence shade just to the inner part of my eye, to give it a little bit more dimension and brightness there as well. So hopefully you can see that effect. Oh yeah, I think you can. So now I'm just going to take the Tranquility shade and I'm going to just blend the edges softly. Oops, I think I applied a bit much. The shades are really pigmented, as you know, Pat McGrath shadows are. I'm really sorry about the change in lighting. It really does have to do with how the camera's focusing. I can see it on my computer that it goes dark all of a sudden and then it lightens up again. I don't know. I'm not a pro, I'm still learning. I do know if I stay zoomed out, that doesn't happen, but I want you to really be able to see what I'm doing. So if it's dark, hopefully that'll still be okay. I'm really happy with the way that looks. I think it looks so pretty, and again, I created it using just this little quad here, so I try to stay away from the pink, and then I didn't use the gold today. I didn't do much in the way of finishing touches today either. I did use my Guerlain Lash Primer, Charlotte Tilbury Legendary Lashes on the upper lash line, and MAC's Mascara on the lower lash line. And today's lip color is this one. This is NARS Dolce Vita. I think they make a liquid blush in this shade. I think I'm gonna need that, even though I could probably use this as a cream blush. It's one of those pencils I got in that Sephora Favorites kit that came with the Fenty highlighter. I really like the color. I think it's really pretty. And it's funny, it's a little more sheer than I expect. But in any case, let me go ahead and put those finishing touches on my eyes, and I will be right back to show you the finished look. So here's your finished look, and like I mentioned, I really just applied a touch of mascara, no eyeliner or anything like that, and it's such a pretty soft look. I really, really love it. I think it looks really pretty. The eyeshadow palette was very easy to work with. It's mostly neutrals and I avoided those pops. So hopefully you enjoyed the look that I came up with, and now I'll be right back with my final thoughts. Hopefully you enjoyed seeing how I created the eye look using kind of the neutral quad in the palette that's over here. I really like the way my look turned out. I've loved every look I've created with the palette. I've done some simple looks with the palette so far, and it's beautiful. I think that if you are thinking about purchasing, if you enjoy the Pat McGrath formula and you want to invest, this is a really beautiful one. I love the color selection in this one. I think more so than the other smaller mothership palettes. This one is really, really, really cohesive, and the color story was really well selected for an everyday kind of look. And if you want to do something a little bit more special, you always have that typical Pat McGrath pop of gold there. Other than that, I just wanted to mention that I'm really glad that this time around there seems to be enough inventory for everyone that wants to get their hands on the palette. Again, it's been a day, not 10 minutes, and the palette is still available, so that's a good sign. And I'm hoping that it continues that way, because it's really sad when you want to purchase a product but it becomes very difficult because it's only available here, or you have to be logged on right when it launches. It can be a little frustrating. So in any case, Britt, thank you so much for letting me know when the palette became available. It allows me to do my review video a little bit sooner, and hopefully it was helpful to you if you're still considering picking this one up. I definitely like it. I've been enjoying neutral tones lately, and wearable looks like this. I'm about to go back to work literally on Monday, so looks like this it's gonna be for a while, even though I'm still gonna be doing my fun looks from time to time. Thank you so much for joining me for my video video again. I apologize for my voice, but goodness, I'm still sick. I'm feeling a little bit better, so hopefully in a couple of days, I'll be back to 100%. If you have any questions for me, leave those in the comment section down below. I hope your New Year's is off to a wonderful, wonderful start. If you did enjoy this video and find it helpful, don't forget that thumbs up for me. I really appreciate it. And subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes of your day with me. I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon on my next one. Bye-bye.